Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Karis May, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer Gerard Goff. We warmly welcome the family of Flight Sergeant William Ronald Andrew, whose story will be read shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from around Australia. During this evening, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors. To commence this evening's ceremony, I invite you all stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Thank you, young people. You may now be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozieres, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and other operations for over more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we pay tribute to Flight Sergeant William Ronald Andrew, who was killed on active service during the Second World War with the Royal Australian Air Force. Born on the 8th of December 1921 in the town of Dalby in the Darling Downs region of Queensland, William Ronald Andrew was the son of Hugh and Mary Andrew. Growing up in the town of Bell in the Western Downs, the young William Andrew was a keen cricketer. He attended the local state school but left after completing 7th grade, taking up employment as a farmhand and labourer on a local wheat farm. Andrew worked on the farm for 5 years before enlisting in the Royal Australian Air Force on the 7th of February 1941. 19 years old at the time, he spent the first period of his service in the RAF working as a messman for No. 24 Squadron at Bankstown. After 8 months of working in the mess, Andrew was granted permission to train as an aircrew member and commenced training as an air gunner. After initial training in Australia, Andrew embarked in Sydney in October 1943 for service overseas. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 RAAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, gunners and engineers who, throughout the course of the war, joined Royal Air Force squadrons or Australian squadrons based in Britain. After his arrival in Britain, Andrew undertook further specialist training before being posted to No. 9 Squadron, Royal Air Force, in July 1944. As part of the RAF's Bomber Command, No. 9 Squadron was equipped with 4-engine Avro Lancaster heavy bombers. Andrew had been with the squadron for a month when, on the 13th of August, the Lancaster in which he was the rear gunner was shot down by flak during a daylight mission to bomb U-boat pens and shipping in the harbour at Brest on the western coast of France. Other crews reported that the Lancaster had a wingtip shot off. It dived and crashed into the ground. All of the Lancaster's crew were killed, including Andrew, and 6 of his fellow Australians, Flight Sergeants Charles Herbert, John Scott, Cyril Scott and Douglas McConville, and their British crewmates, the pilot, Flight Lieutenant Edward Relton and Sergeant Frederick Johnson. William Andrew was 22 years old. The bodies of the crew were recovered from the crash and Andrew was buried in the Otto-le-Bac Cemetery, southeast of Bayeux, France. The epitaph on his gravestone, chosen by his family, reads, "Duty nobly done." Andrew's name, alongside those of his fellow Australian crewmates, is listed here on the Roll of Honour on my left, among some 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flight Sergeant William Ronald Andrew, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, in the hope of a better world.
Could you all please stand for the ode and last post?
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man, lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We would like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today, and we wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.